And I constantly tell them, in order to demand respect, you, as a Moirarua, as a Rov, give yourself away 24/7, fully for your community. Automatically the respect will come. But your tafkid should be, geb sich immer for the community fully. Think what I can do for them.
Welcome everyone to the podcast SCP-Chabad. The purpose of this podcast is to bridge the gap between Rabbonim and Mashpim and the Anash community. I am doing this with my friend Rebbe Bassman, who is the Menahel of several Halacha and Hasidus projects.
Thank you, Levi. Baruch Hashem is a schus that I have the exposure to many prestigious Rabbonim and Mashpim who are often not given a proper platform. This podcast, SCP-Chabad, will give a voice to these Rabbonim and Mashpim to share their thinking, their Hashgocha, Hasidus, a deep dive into their backstory to help uplift the entire community.
Please consider subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing, because that helps the algorithm bring it to more people, which changes lives and brings...
Okay, Rabbi Oberlander for joining us right after Yitas Kislev to go a little deeper. I'll give you a little background into Mikza Shvochi Befanov about Rabbi Oberlander, and then we'll get into some questions and conversations. Just Stama Psicha Klolis, Rev Yosef Klein, the Rosh Kollel of Kollel Lomdei Dach, he said an interesting vart this Friday about interviews and today's Tanya. He said that there's two ways to learn. There's two ways to learn. You can have a shir, Baruch Hashem. We hear a lot of shiurim from Rabbi Oberlander. You can go on YouTube and all over. There's hundreds of shiurim and svarim you can get from Rabbi Oberlander. But the way Rabbi Klein was magdir, the vart that Alter Rebbe says in Akdamas HaMalakit, is that Tanya, what's innovative about the way Tanya was presented is that it's not a shir, not a regular sefer. It's the Alter Rebbe giving you a window into conversations he had with Hasidim. So it goes beyond the surface, and you're able to go a little deeper. So al derech zeh, where we have the big schos that Rabbi Oberlander is giving us a psicha into having a conversation about his thinking and about shilos that the olam has v'chulu v'chulu. So Rabbi Oberlander is a Rav in Kingston, Pennsylvania, formerly a Rav in Monsey. He was originally, as a bacher, maybe a younger man, he was a Chozer of the Popa Rov. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. And he was trained by the greatest poskim of our generation, including Rabbi Shmuel Vosner of Alav Shalom. He's the mechaber of at least 7 very, very important choshev svarim and halacha and minig. And as well, he's the editor of one of the foremost journals in halacha in the world, Yisrael, as well as a member of Rabbonin Lubavitch. And he came close to Lubavitch, and he wasn't just mahana, the ilum of Chabad and beyond, with Piski Halacha and literally Meiser Nefesh, Lamana Olam, to be Marbitz Halacha and Torah, but he's also Marbitz Chasidus with his Heichel Menachem and Monsey that he's still very involved with, and in many other ways. So, G'reisni Yashikayach for your time. I'm mechashev it very much. The whole Kollel Rabbani Chabad is probably inspired by conversations that I had initially with Rabbi Oberlander, realizing how people don't realize literally probably hundreds of hours a month that he dedicates, Pashut volunteers to sit and answer shilas for the community in Kingston, but way beyond. And we're trying to help make it a little easier for the Rav, but in the meantime, I don't think we've made much of a dent yet. I don't think your phone's ringing less since we started the Kollel, but it's a big schus, and thank you very much for your time. So if the Rav can perhaps go back to your earlier days when you were initially in Popa, what does it mean to be a Chozer by the Popa Rov?
Popa Rov used to say Torah by all 3 Sidus, the Suda Shabbos. And then Motzei Shabbos, and after Shabbos, you write it down. So it's not like a Chozer like by the Rebbe. After a Verbrengen, they used to chazer it over once and twice. And that. It was basically afterwards, they sit down a few, 2, 3 Bocharam and write down the Torah, which he said Friday night, in the morning, and by Siddur Shlishis, Shalosh.
So you were very close with the Popa Rov.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. And
So
I had also the fortunate that I was writing down all his manugam. I wanted to, which he didn't want, he didn't like it, but we wanted to know all his manugam. So basically, I followed him for a few years, and everything what he did, we wrote down, we captured it, and we wrote it down.
has that been published? You published that since?
I gave it over for once. I wasn't involved that much in Popa. I gave it over for one of my friends, and they had published it in the Zmiras. They published the Shabbos Menhugam, and it's still being worked on by a group of Chassidim now to give it out in a sefer.
When did the Popa Rov pass away?
Tafshin Mem Dalet.
Was that when you started looking into Lubavitch, or what was the transition point where you went from Popa to Chabad?
I was Tafshin Mem Gimmel started my journey. Tafshin Mem Gimmel, I was still in Popa Yeshiva. The Popa Yeshiva used to be in Queens, and I used to have braces, so I used to go every second week to the dentist, adjust it. And it was after Mendel Wechter came to Popa Yeshiva twice and gave a shir and opened our eyes on Tanya and opened our eyes of Chassidus. We got to realize that basically 50 minutes away from Williamsburg, there's a Rebbe, Chabad, there's a movement, there's something, at least be curious and go over and look at it. So since I was
the Popa Rov lived in
Williamsburg. So once I had to leave the yeshiva to go to the dentist, so I decided with a friend to go to 770, see the Rebbe daven mincha, and we constantly went for minchas. But by the time we went for minchas, after mincha, we started asking around people with all kind of questions. I came to Polish Bucher. And he had Chabad, and he has all kind of silly questions on Chabad. So they told us Rabbi Yoel has an office in that building. Go up to him and speak with him. So we knocked on his door, and he opened the door and asked, "What do we want?" He said, we answered him. We have some questions to ask, and if he's ready to answer us, he says, "Why not?" And he sat for us a long time, a couple of times, answered our questions, answered the questions, And a lot of them was stupid, silly questions, but he put, he answered it with the whole sincerity. Then we started realizing that basically whatever they taught us in Williamsburg against Chabad is Sheker v'Chozer, and stop believing anything which you hear over there. So that was basically the first phase. I used to go a lot for Mincha Tafshin Mem Gimel. Minchas, plain Poshet Minchas.
Every 2 weeks, before the braces or after the braces?
After we used to finish the braces, used to come to 770, and we used to, hang around, look around, being a mincha, being a mayer, if you just, seeing what's going on. Look at the Rebbe. And for us, being a mincha by the Rebbe, it took me a lot, because, you saw a Rebbe which standing by it was the Rebbe used to daven upstairs. It's sich nicht geschockelt, schwingen kann machen mit der hand. There was no hands and feet. Poshet, gedaven, word by word, na siddur. It blew our minds, basically. Because we used to waste the Rebbes and busy machen mit der hand and mit der feet, in plisting this Tayyid, the shtayt, kavde murekama for Hashem, it made a very big impression.
So what was the dynamic, the Popa Rebbe or Rov?
He was a Rov.
Popa Rov. So he wasn't a Rebbe.
He was in that time. The last couple of years, they tried to make him a Rebbe, and they were successful. Now that today's Popa Rov is a Rebbe. He was a Rov. He was a Poisik Halochas. He was a Chassidish Yid. He It was a Chosid of Belzer, over Baron Belzer. Chosid Mamash. And automatically, once you have Talmidim, they made him a Rebbe and became a Rebbe automatically.
So you weren't a chassid of a specific. Were you a chassid of a specific chassidus? You were a Belzer chassid?
No. Popei itself. That itself was a Kehilla.
Was a Kehilla, but I'm saying you didn't have.
Yeah, but it turned out to be a chassidus also. Exactly. That.
Oh, even then, even in your days.
Even in my days, yeah.
So did they think more like the Satmar? Were they part of that machlokes?
No, they did not, because Adrabah, we didn't like too much Satmar, to be truthful.
Living in Williamsburg.
Yeah, because Williamsburg automatically Satmar was the dominant force that used to suppress anybody who was not Satmar. So automatically it was not an open tent, but it was some kind of tent between Popa and Satmar, and they used to make fun of Popa. So automatically we didn't have the shitta of Satmar. And Bachlal, for instance, Popa Rov, would learn Sifrei Chabad. And we asked him when it came out Shir Sefer Atanya if we could buy it in Yeshiva and learn it. He says, no problem. So it wasn't learning Sifrei Chabad wasn't so far away, but we didn't learn it. It wasn't a thing which was on the agenda.
So did Rabbi answer all your questions?
He answered a lot. Yeah, you answered a lot.
Did you still have some issues with Lubavitch?
If I have issues?
No, I'm saying, did Rabbi completely answer all your questions?
No, it was a process. Don't kid yourself. It is a process from a different culture. And we had, but slowly, it resonated, his answers. But then afterwards, I went, the end of about Elul Tovshim Mem Gimmel, I went to Etzisrol, to learn in Etzisrol. And I went in to learn by Rav Osner. And Rav Osner is Yeshiva. Yeshiva is Chachmel. Yes. Now,
how old were you then?
I was about 16. And I went to learn, it was in Bnei Brak. And at the same time, my cousin, Baruch Oberlander, which is the chief Shliach Harushi in Budapest, he learned in Slobodka, also in Bnei Brak. He already started learning with Zalman Lando, the son of Ramosha Lando. He gave a shir in Tanya, and he learned by him already. So after about Cheshvan, he introduced me to that shir. After winter, Tovshim Dalat, he introduced me to Zalman Lando's shir, which was in the Besmedrash.
Your cousin was also Popa Baruch?
Also, yeah, he was also, yeah. And he was even closer to Popa Rov than myself.
Did the Popa Rov give you any pushback?
Popa Rov, he didn't give any pushback. My cousin Baruch, Dafke, when he went over to Lubavitch Yeshiva, he gave him support. He gave him support to go.
And you was just neutral. You didn't say anything.
I didn't know. I went Elul Tovshim Mem Gimel for a chasana, and I stayed there. So basically, he didn't know that I'm staying there. So basically, there was no conversation.
So what was the chap? You saw the Rebbe davening, and then you became a Lubavitcher like that?
No, I didn't become a Lubavitcher yet.
In other words, what turned you on? Like, what was the flash?
I was a curious boy. I wanted to read everything and know everything, and I was thinking out of the box. B'chalal. So pitom, I saw something that over here there's a Rebbe, which is totally different than what the perspective which I got on him. And I saw something, that was the first Zetz. I saw that basically you're talking about a joint, which is gemacht a Peiche Gedoyle in Oilema Yehades. And it started resonating that basically Williamsburg is not the end of the world. Open your eyes and see a little bit abroad Williamsburg, outside of Williamsburg. So I was open already to how do you say, looking around what's going on over there. I was fascinating with what's going on in Chabad, and I was looking what's going on with Verbrengens. I used to go read everything which came across my table regarding Chabad, and the Rebbe, whatever they had. I was fascinated because something different. And I got the picture. It's a Fatzatische Rebbe. It's like a old-time Rebbe. So once I started learning with Zalman the Chassidus Bechlal, automatisch I sat and heard from him a lot about Chassidus. And then I started going, that was the whole winter. Then it came Pesach. My cousin Baruch Oberlander switched from Slobodka to Chabad. I stayed in Chachma Lublin, but I used to go to yeshiva for Shabbosim. I used to go to yeshiva Poshet Chabad for the Shabbos. Remendel Futefas was the mashpia, and when he used to verbring, if he saw a guest, especially a Polish bocher, he used to sit on him and make him drunk. He used to make a bitish on him, and automatically things started resonating into me. I'll tell you what made a big roshim on me. I used to go of Shabbos, and there used to be bocherim, which I would say 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they still used to daven. And it made a big impression. The biggest impression which made on myself, I'll tell you the secret. Whenever I used to come for Shabbos, I had a chavrusa. A guy who bocher used to learn, that specific bocher used to learn with me, Chassidus. And he knew a lot, especially for a person which didn't know too much. And I was fascinated by this boy. Once I asked him, so much Chassidus, how long are you learning Chassidus? 10 years already? How long? You know a lot. So I started smiling. I said, what's the joke? He says, 2 years ago, only 2 years I'm learning Chassidus. So what did you do before that? He said, before that I wasn't from. I was a from guy. That blew my mind. That made a gewaltige roshim. Because then I saw a guy who was 2 years ago, he wasn't from, and now he has such ideas, and was a Chassidische bocher. And that changed my whole perspective. That changed my whole mind. Also, we used to go to Nachas Chabad, Kiryat Malachi, which Remendel Vechter used to give a shir Thursday night over there. So we used to go to Tel Aviv, and from there to Nachla, be by his shir. We used to sleep by Sucher Dovel Kloisner. So automatically that year, I was starting to get more and more involved in Chassidus and in Chabad. Remember, the first Verbreng which I fully participated was Yites Kislev Toshim Mem Dalet. It was a live hookup in Kvar Chabad. I traveled to Kvar Chabad before Yites Kislev. I sneaked out of yeshiva, and in Beis Menachem there was a big screen, and we watched the Rebbe's Verbrengen. That was mamash, which changed a lot for me. So that was basically
the Rebbe's Mapecha and Avodas Atfila.
The what?
It was the Rebbe's Mapecha and Avodas Atfila.
What Atfila means? The pashtas of the davening. No, we look the pashtas, the pshitas.
So you saw Yidden davening barichos. That was what you. That's what verchapt you to Lubavitch. The way people davened.
The way I see young bocherim how they daven, and how bocherim who learn Chassidus in some gelebt in andere Welt. No, I wasn't used to. I wasn't used to the after davening when everybody runs down in the dining room to wash, make kiddush and wash. Bocherim should still sit in daven. That was a big change for me to see.
Do you think we've lost some of that in America or Bechlal? In other words, if you were to come today, would you think you'd be as verchapt as you would in Pei as in Mem Gimmel?
Now, if you're talking about verchapt of the Rebbe, today's day is probably if you delve in on an open mind what the Rebbe, Mapaicha the Rebbe made, it's even more fascinating than then.
Okay, I mean,
much more fascinating. And if you delve into it, Ba'ofen Pruti is I personally, the more and more I'm a Chabad already over 40 years, I'm getting more and more fascinated of the Rebbe's Mapaicha, which a one-man band made in the whole world. You see it today's day much more than you saw it then, because now you see even in the Chassidische Welt the Mapaicha which he made. Especially when I'm involved so much in Chosam Yunus, and see how Chassidus change, and the Rebbe's Torah changes people. But it's very hard to say such a thing. If changed, things change. Yes, 30 years not having the Rebbe in presence, neshuma begif, as we had him, changed a lot. No question about it. But do you still have Bochram with a kochen sich avoid tefillah? Yes. Then it was a minority, and I assume even 100 years ago was also a minority. And now you also still have Bochram, which basically you can see how they daven, and it was never the majority of them. Don't kid ourselves. Don't kid yourself. But the minority, as Chassidus can machen a change, even by Yichidus Gila, it takes you over.
What's your personal biggest passion about Chabad? Like today, in other words, Avodas Tefillah is for minority, but for Rabbi Oberlander, what's your biggest daily chayas from Chassidus that you would point to? What would be the one or two biggest things?
By me, the things which keeps me in awe is the Rebbe's Torah. How he changed my mind, it changed my cup, it changed my way of thinking, it changed how what world is. What Olam Haze is, what Olam Habe is, and basically I learned a lot of years Chassidus in depth. Until you didn't learn the Rebbe's Torah, till you didn't learn the Rebbe's Torah, you nicht übergemacht as much as once you start learning the Rebbe's Torah. Because when you learn the Alter Rebbe, which I have a personal passion, believe me, be'emes, Kita Torah and Torah or I went over it a lot of times. I have a personal passion for it because it elevates you mamash in a gewaltige soiras. It has in it the Polish flavor. But Lamaisa, after learning it, and
Likkutei Torah, Mamud Ad Merazukin.
Mamud Ad Merazukin also. Mamud Ad Merazukin, I would say a lot of volumes I went through, and the Siddur, the Alter Rebbe. That's why I have a passion. That's why Baruch Hashem I was able to sponsor. You should the Likkutei Torah for cost to print it. And the Torah or and the Tanya, it as today till today, a Shabbos without Torah doesn't go. 17 years I gave a shir Likkutei Torah and Torah or, and even now, it's a besonders. But the Rebbe takes all these things and brings it down in the daily life. Lamaise b'poel. That's why the Polish Chassidim are fascinated with the Likkutei Torah and Torah. That's why it's very popular today's day, because it elevates its hype techov, like you learn a Moranayim and you learn a Ditch's Livy and a Nemelamaylich, because it elevates the hype techov in the Himmel. But sometimes that's in Himmel, and was kommt up in the Welt, you come down, you land, basically, you lose it. The Rebbe took all this in Yonam of Chassidus and brought it down on our lives and changed the
very
way
practical.
you think. So I say, I constantly said it in Heich Menachem. Wie viel das doch lernen in Mamurim from the Friedige Rebbeim, till you're not going to delve into the Rebbe's Sinyonim, the Rebbe's Mamurim, the Rebbe's Siches, and the Rebbe's Igris Kodesh, especially, you're not going to see that all the things which you learn is nicht tam, weißt du, theoretisch. It is life. It's on a daily basis. You use these things. The Rebbe changed the way how you think.
Why do you think, before we get to that, did you have any personal minus from the Rebbe for yourself, or written, oral?
I had written one minor. Chitzvons, which the letters the Rebbe sent me when I got chasana, I had a minor. Tovshi Memhai, my father's angezinnt, printed over a sefer Sha'aris Yisroel from the Velednike Maggid. He was a Talmud of Chernobyl Maggid, and he did not have children. And there's a whole story how my family got to know this tzaddik. He passed away Tufrashid. He was Nizgala through the Tzemach Tzedek. Tzemach Tzedek sent an Anagina to the Veledniker, And since then, he became Mefursim as a big Malmoifus. And it was from whole Russia, they used to travel to him from Ofsam. He didn't have children. And my family, my mother's mother is buried in Ukraine. My father and mother used to travel, even in the communist times, to their gravesite, 1973 and later. So over there, they got to know of there's a tzaddik, the Velednik Magid, which all Russian Yidentum knew about him. When my father came home from Russia, he heard that there's a sefer from him. It's called Shairis Yisrael. He didn't leave children. And he said, I want to print it over. So he found that sefer. He gave it for me. And he said, listen to me. I want you should print it over. Do something about it. So then I made some Makoimus on the sefer. And I made a shtickle movoy. People should know who he is. He's told us. And my father printed it. Tovshim Memhai. I sent it into the Rebbe because I was already Makisha to the Rebbe. I sent it into the Rebbe, and I got a money from the Rebbe. Niskabelet Shiis Chaim, v'ahoitzil or cipher zeh, oy kiyoytze bezeh, arayze hafutzes hamayunas habashemtov, v'chili mashu kazeh, something like that. And then the Rebbe gave me a maramukam that he brings down from the Alter Rebbe, Kamamar Harav Meladi, and the Rebbe writes where it is. The Skitatoyre Pasha Sav. That was the mana which I got for the Rebbe. It was a bocher still. So once I got this mana, I made stickers. The cipher was printed already. So I made stickers, and I put it in every cipher, the mana of the Rebbe. Mana skwatkishes Abba Lubavitch Shechita. That was a real thing, Tushim High. A Willensburg boy should do it, but I still did it. So that was, I would say, the mana which I got from the Rebbe, which is very precious to me. And the Rebbe was Machazek. By the way, there's a story which the Rebbe, by Fabrengen Topshin Yitzayin, the Rebbe tells a story of the Vledning Magid, of a Moifes which he did, and a parish which he said, by making the Moifes through saying a pshat in a Sadal Sedusa. And the Rebbe finishes, the Chiddush is not the pshat which he said, nor through the pshat is geworden Poshet, is of the Elegata Kind. So in the Numadira, and also in the Sepirim Fluas, which we printed later, all the Sepirim from this Sadik, I printed it in the shtickle from that Verbrengen. I also printed into the Sefer. So that's the minor which I got from the Rebbe. Then afterwards, a few years later, when I was living in Israel, and I made a picture of the Rambam's menorah. I had drawn somebody should draw the picture of the Kohen Gadol, putting on the menorah of like with the Rambam, the way the Rebbe explains how the Rambam's shittas Rambam menorah. And then I had sent it. I was living in Israel then. I had sent it with Menashe Laufer to the Rebbe on a sons with $1. And then the Rebbe also gave $1, and the Rebbe gave it's printed in Beis Chayenu.
Wow.
This podcast, HalachaU, is sponsored by the new Kollel Aliba de Hilchasa that is being launched Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan, Rosh Kollel Rav Yaakov Goldstein, Gan Rosh Kollel Menahel Poyel. You can check out kollelad.com. And it's a 8-year syllabus. Every 6 months is going to be a new sugya. The first sugya is going to be on the subject of Avelos, end of life questions, Bikur Chaylim, and it will be about a 2-hour per week commitment of Chavrusa learning, and two weekly live shiurim and other resources to really have a serious kviyas itim and halacha at a high in-depth level, learning the Shulchan Aruch inside with accountability. So it's a serious kviyas for someone that's busy, who wants in-depth learning with the background. Every 6 months is a new topic. You can see in the show notes a link to schedule a conversation if you have further questions. kollelaliba.com.
Why do you think the Rebbe wanted, when someone comes from a different Chassidus to Lubavitch, to keep the Levush? Did the Rebbe explain why he what did the Rebbe say, and what do you think? Is there anything more to it than that?
There is a saying which goes around that the Rebbe didn't want that people who comes to Chabad should change. I'm trying to locate for whom the Rebbe told that. I don't have any makor which the Rebbe said it. But again, if there is such the rumors, there has to be something to it. But I know one story which is interesting. There was a guy who wanted to change the Levush, and the Rebbe asked him why, and he said, "I don't feel comfortable in Chabad that everybody goes with the same Levush. I don't feel comfortable." So the Rebbe answered him, "The Zurkis are going with other Levush, so what's so to speak, why you need to change? There's a Zurkis family also in Chabad which goes different than Chabad. So maybe it's built on this answer, but I never heard a person which the Rebbe told him directly he shouldn't change." But by the way, I think the reason why the Rebbe, if there is such a mind or what, because there's no such thing as Chabad Levush. There's no such thing as Chabad Levush. What kind of Levush is Chabad? Chabad is not chitzonizdige in Levushim. The Frierdiker Rebbe did not wear like the Rebbe, and the Rebbe Shmooze did not wear exactly like the Frierdiker Rebbe. The Frierdiker Rebbe had a up hat. If you look and the Rebbe Shmooze had the Rebbe Shmooze had an up hat, or I don't know exactly if it's a bandana or not. And the Frierdiker Rebbe had a summit and a hit when you see his pictures. So there's no such a Chabad Levush. But I could say in my case, it's a gewaltige Sati Deshmaya that I didn't change the Levush. Because eventually, my shlichus is in Heiche Malachim Emonzi, which is basically coming across the Polish Chassidim who come to Chabad, and changing the Levush wouldn't help. Bachlal and Afutzas Hamayunas.
Interesting. So tell me what was your journey to getting? It seems like you have a fire in Chassidus and the Rebbe's Torah, but an equally big fire in you is in Halacha and Minhagim. Who inspired your passion for Halacha?
When I was learning in yeshiva, I always learned Lomdes. I was in Yeshiva Chach Belablin. Basically, there was a drop Halocha which we learned with Rabbonin itself. We used to give a shir after davening, but that's about it. Then afterwards, I went over to Yeshiva South Fallsburg, which is a Litvish yeshiva.
In Eretz Yisrael?
No, in South Fallsburg, in the Catskills. And basically, there was no halacha involved.
How did you get to a Litvish yeshiva?
Oh, how did I get a Litvish yeshiva? Because my father already saw where I'm heading. He knew already that I'm Heitzis Venivge. I'm in Chabad. So
what did he think about that?
He didn't like it.
Okay.
So my brother-in-law was learning in Lake. He was a Lakewood boy, but I said a Lakewood boy, and he started to explain to me, why don't you go in yeshiva? It's a beautiful yeshiva. It's a good yeshiva, Lomdei yeshiva. It's a prestige yeshiva. Go there. His kavanah was basically that maybe it will cool me off, but it didn't happen like that, because there was about 3-4 bocharim in South Fallsburg, and all of them were already involved in Chassidus somehow, and we had a shir in Tanya on the ground. That was really on the ground, because over there they would have known you would have got kicked out of yeshiva. So we had a guy coming from Monsey to Woodburn, and we used to travel once a week to Woodburn, and we used to learn Chassidus. But Akaponim, that was the Nikida. I think my brother-in-law wanted me, to cool off, or his idea, or through my father, I should cool down. But in Satvos Baruch Hashem, I had my friends which were already involved, and we were every Verbrengen which was on the radio, we could follow, because in Satvos underground radio was normal. So basically,
not just for Verbrengens.
What?
Not just for Verbrengens.
They use it for Verbrengens, but we had for Verbrengens. So I loved to learn the Satvos. So basically, I was not involved in Halacha. Not only that, after I got married, I learned in Borough Park in a Kollel with friends from South Fallsburg, which were also not a Halacha Kollel, which was basically a Gemara Kollel, Lomdes. I learned there for 2 years, but then both my shver and my father, my shver started pushing me, you gotta learn halacha. And my father pushed me out, I should take smicha, because my father had a big passion that I should have smicha. So then I had to move from my apartment. So I decided, let's go to Eretz Yisrael. So we moved to Eretz Yisrael, and over there in Eretz Yisrael, I started learning Yeridaya. I was there for 4 years. Fim Tovshin Memtes. Cheshvan Memtes was right before the heavy Bechiras, which the Rebbe said that everybody should basically work for Gimmel, and I was working, as much as I could. But then I went into yeshiva in Kollel. I started learning smicha. 4 years I learned Yeridai Chaylik Aleph. I learned, that means all Yeridai Chaylik Aleph. Then you have to smicha, you have to know Treifos, you have to know Smunim Aktanim, you have to know everything. I learned over there Bechasapairis, and I learned the Yeridai Chaylik Bais Hilchas Nida. Some Simonim Mechosh too. That was the 4 years which I was there. And then I got very into Halacha, because I had also, my Kollel was one of the Dayonim in Dach. So automatically I sat by him for Shemesh. Over here I started. And so slowly he schlepped me in.
Who was that?
His name was Rebbe Neishlas. Moshe Neishlas from New Square, the Rav from New Square, his son. He was a dayan in Eidach, and he was our Kollel. So automatically he schlepped me in very much into Halacha. Our Kollel
as a Lubavitcher.
What?
As a Lubavitcher.
As a Lubavitcher, yeah. Our Kollel was right opposite of the house of Rebbe Yanke Fisher from the Eidach, the famous dayan. And constantly there were people coming for shilas, and he was a very sharp person. You answered and you had to leave. I don't know why, but the Eibush gave me some Nasis Chaim by him, and I used to sit by him a lot, and he used to answer me mit Gedilt. As of today, I don't know why. I got up Nasis Chaim by him, and I used to sit and listen to him, ask him questions. I used to write down psukim which I got from him. That was the 4 years which I was in Eretz Yisrael, which brought me in very much into Halacha.
Let me ask, sort of Shmuel Vosner was more an influence in Lomdei than in Halacha?
Yes, he was more in Gemara Tosfos, yes.
Interesting.
But afterwards, once I was into Halacha already, I had kasher with him. I used to write him, and he used to answer me. He used to answer me chivas, because since I was a Talmud, then he didn't answer that much. But since I was a Talmud, he answered me. Not even that. I remember Tovshin Mem Nian Hai, after I came back from America to America and finished up Chozer of Smicha, and I had to go fahir myself. And again, don't forget, the Smicha which I took was not a Smicha which 1 year you learn and you get you had to know it in and out. So I had to know Yeridai Chaylik Aleph and Chaylik Bais Chsnida with the Pischachivas, with the Chavas DAAS, with the Prima Gudams. You had to know it good. So it took me a full year to make Chazorah. Then I called Rabbonin, I want to come to have smicha. So Rabbonin says, I don't give any more smicha. I said, Rebbe, you're my Rebbe. I'm a Talmud. Whom should I go if not my Rebbe? He says, okay, you're right. So then I flew to Yisrael, and he gave me smicha. First, he told me to go to Rebbe Vosner. That was his grandson. Because Rabbonin always, before he learned, he tested you. He sent you to one of his Dayonim, which Dayan, took out the neshama of you, and then he used to test you. So I went to the Bassman since he was in America. Usually he used to send to Moshe Shol Klein in Etzisrol, but in America he used to send to his Avam Hersh. He was still then, he was a Shekoila somewhere, and he was a dayan in Ep.6. And he had finished Tafke then also Yeridaya, and a few nights I sat by him, and we went over Yeridaya in and out. Once I finished and I passed by him, he wrote me a very beautiful letter. And he told me, very interesting, he told me, you go to my Zaida, he's gonna forhead you maybe 10 minutes. Because, once I forhead you, he's going to ask you a few questions, and that's about it. So once I flew to Eretz Yisrael, It was mamish before Pesach, and Rabbonin gave me a time when to come, and he fared me very well, maybe over an hour, which was shocking. It was shocking because I know it will be 10 minutes. And I was surprised, I was surprised why. So when he finished, he wrote me the smicha, and it tells me, it's probably you want to know why I fahed you so good. It tells me, I see that you're the rabstig. That means you're heading for being a moirerua and a dayan. So I want to make sure that you know it well. So then he gave me a good faher, and then he wrote me a beautiful, beautiful smicha. How did you know that I'm going into halacha? Because a year before, I had printed already my Sefer Pidyon Ben Halacha, and I sent it to him. He gave me a beautiful askoma. So automatically he saw that where I'm heading to. So therefore, he didn't fair me 10 minutes. He fared me over an hour, and good, thoroughly, And most of the faher which he gave me was on Traifas, Simonum Ketanem, more than on Boseb Cholim and Tarivas.
Wow. So to change gears a little bit, but in the Olam of Halacha, so this is something that I've been, speaking to, coming back from Yitas Kislev. So the Line Gebriv and the Chassidish perspective on Rabbonim taking themselves too seriously, and Chassidim being very good at poking fun at the ego of big Gedolim, to the extent that you don't necessarily want to quote what Mashpiyim make fun of the Yeshus of Rabbonim. So how Rabbi Heller this year, by his Farbrengen, he told over from Zalman Shimon Dvorkin. He said that he, I heard it's cliche, his Farbrengens are not recorded, so someone was quoting him. He said that Zalman Shimon Dvorkin didn't know how to handle, people giving him covet, and he didn't know what to do with that. And from what you hear on the inside, it was the position of being a Rav, particularly in Dar Shvi. There's some pushback against Rabbonim having covet and Rabbonim having power, and then you have Hilchas Yeredeya. How do you find the balance between the proper covet that a community should be giving a Rav, and the Rav should be demanding from the community, and the Chassidish perspective on how to deal with that?
Okay, there's two things what you said. First of all, that the Chassidische, the Polish Chassidische Rabbonim take themselves too serious. Sie doing their mappers. Sometimes they demand, and that's a problem. Le'umazeh, Arov should have a position in Achshivas, and giving him kavod is very important on the hashpur which he has on the community. Because when you have children growing up, bochram growing up, that Arov is a choshev deal, and he worked on him a lot of years till he got to his position in DAAS Torah, then the Rav could have a shpur on his Kehilla. And it's a very important thing. In Chabad, it wasn't like that. Again, like you said, the Dora Shvi. I remember when I became Rav in Kingston, before I came to Kingston, Rabbi Golchowski told me that the Menahel Futterfast told him, when he became Rav of his community in Eretz Yisrael, the Menahel Futterfast told him, you should know one thing, in Lubavitch, a Rav is like a korban. You should know that. And don't think a korban chatas, it's a korban oila, kila kulil. So that was the perspective, that was the burchaba, which I got when I came over to Kingston. Now, when I was in Monsey, basically, my community was a Hasidic community. Although there was a lot of Lubavitch community which I was involved, and they asked a lot of shilas, a lot of Monsey, not only Monsey, even worldwide. But I didn't. It wasn't on a personal, so to speak, contact. It was basically, on the phone or asking a shaila. So they had that respect. When I came over here into Kingston, basically after I got this burchaba, I was sure of basically that Arov is nothing. But again, I have a shlichus. I got to do it. But I must tell you, ich mit der Zung bei Emmas, that I'm pleasantly surprised. All this, what they say in Lubavitch, that they don't have respect for Rabbonim, I disagree. I cannot talk for ganz Lubavitch, but I could say in Kingston, Pennsylvania, they have gewaltige respect for a Rov. They're be'emas, respectful. They want to hear, and they're listening. Now again, if a Rov demands the respect, it's a problem. If the Rov abuses his power, it's a bigger problem. If you don't demand it, and if you don't abuse the power, you do your job, which I try basically the chavekze game for the community and for backlash, for shlichim and people who ask mamash fully, automatically there will be respect.
What's your trick? Like you said,
the trick is don't demand and don't look for kuvvet. Just give yourself. You give. Whatever comes back is a bonus. Give and give and give. My wife asked me this Friday, why do you keep your phone open 10 minutes before Shabbos? People constantly call. Why? You also for you is also Erev Shabbos. I said, after all, you didn't have to have a place where you could call before Shabbos, and they have an answer. I will have, once this man comes in, I can close my phone, then I'll have my menicha. I am meshibet to a tzibur, and therefore I cannot close my phone before that. So if you don't demand covet, and if you don't abuse your power, sofa covet love. But again, it's not for the covet,
I think perhaps, and you mentioned Reb Mendel. I was recently speaking to a Lubavitcher of, he shall remain nameless, that was walking with Reb Mendel out of in Manchester. He was then a bacher, out of an asifa with Reb Matisyahu Salomon alav shalom, and this bacher was mimicking the Musar shmooze from Rav Matisyahu, and Reb Mendel said that Lubavitch has to learn. They have what to learn from us, but Lubavitch has to learn how to have a Yiddish Kehilla that we have to look on the Kreisen. And he had a lot of wisdom, and so I think today in today's global community, as Lubavitch is now building Kehillas, being my involvement in Kollel Rabbonim Chabad, probably in the last year, gotten like 4 or 5 calls from communities that are just, being created, looking for Rabbonim. So it's a new concept that we have a Kehilla and there's a Rav. It's a relatively new thing for us. We have experience building thousands of Chabad houses around the world, but this concept of a Kehilla was, we don't have a lot of prototypes to learn from. So it seems like Kingston can be a good Mirza Hashem, Imenu Yiru, and there should be a lot should be able to learn from that.
There's another point that's very important. If you respect the Chavrei HaKehilla, if you respect him, if you give respect for them, which I immensely respect the Kingston Ingelad, but Emmas Chassidish Ingelad, Emmas Voili Ingelad, Kvisitel Matoide, but Emmas is a beautiful community. If you have respect for them, automatically it's mutual respect. But I want to tell one thing. it is very, very important. We should teach our children what a Rov is and how to respect the Rov. Not because the Rov needs the kavod. Believe me, ich hab genig kavod undem. It is only if the child grows up with respect for the Rov, that means he has respect for something which is higher than him, and he has respect for Torah automatisch.
How do you teach that? What's a practical way to teach that to a child?
Poshet, to tell them that Arov is learned a lot, and and when he gives a psak, you have to follow it, and his psak is Torah. It's like all other communities. How did all other communities teach their children what Arov is?
Tell us.
If you teach children over in Kingston, when I came into a mitzvah, so one of the guys over there said, English, the Rav came in, stel dich auf. It's not the point they had to stel dich auf for me, it's not my, but what did he show? He says, Rabbi, I do Haruf, you have to respect the Rav. If you teach them, if you tell them that a Rav is a dover choshev, when the Rav tells you something, he's gonna take it seriously. If you don't have respect for the Rav, what does it mean? You tell me, my father tells me, my friend's father tells me, but if you tell them that a Rav is hot a das Torah, it is a person which learned Torah and whatever it says, hot achshivas, and you gotta listen to it, automatically they have some kind of authority on top of them, and they're gonna listen. And I see it over here constantly. Children come over Friday night, take a Shabbos, and then when you tell them something, they're gonna do it b'kovid rosh. Tell them, put away your siddur, take the candy wrapper, put it in the garbage. He's gonna do it because he knows a Rav is something which is a higher authority, and it's very important because a place where there's no authority. Man sucht durch ein Wort von der Belseruf, sich ist klein. A besmedrisch oder a Kehilla, was hat nicht geruf, ist der Samachmem der Ruf.
The podcast HalachaU is sponsored by Kollel, the Lomdei Dach. Revolutionize your limud Chassidus with Misgeres, the study Chassidus based on sugyas. Kollel, the Lomdei Dach, is starting its 5th sugya, and the sugya of Hod B'Sholem, and we'll be spending a number of months on that sugya, learning the sugya with Rabbi Farkash and the Rosh Kollel, Rabbi Yosef Klein, dissecting the sugya and its background, the haskalah and the avodah, piece by piece, to learn and chazer and discuss and farbrang about the topic, avodah shiurim, practical Isiya shiurim, and you will walk away with a completely new appreciation for Chassidus. Try out this Kollel, take your Chassidus to a whole new level. KollelDach.com.
Right, but this is a very challenging. Let's take the example of standing up for a Rav. So it's almost unheard of in the Lubavitcher Kehillas I've seen. I'd say 80% of them, people don't stand up for a Rav. So,
It's not proper, which is not right.
I'm saying, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I'm just so. How would you make a culture shift in that regard? They would say it's a misnagdish azach, or it's we never they'll quote G'day Chassidim from the previous generation. They didn't stand up for Rabbonim. In other words, is this would this be introducing a new minhag? And we only stand up for the Rebbe. Or, for example, a shliach would tell me, someone that was asked to speak by the Vader Ban Lubavitch, they put Shlita after his name. We only say Shlita on the Rebbe. So this is a culture shift in Lubavitch, which I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. I'm just saying you're going to get a lot of pushback from introducing something which people would say, we never saw this by Chassidim.
I didn't say that I'm introducing that. And I'm just saying it, that the Metzias is that having respect for a Rav could change a community. If not, why should they listen to the Rav? Why should they have any respect? It's only the Rebbe. But it's how much the Rebbe do the Shumas Begiv that basically that we should have this respect. So automatically there's no authority.
So are
now,
you?
I didn't say that they should. I didn't say there's a Chofstel. I said somebody said over there, Bocher am Stolzengov, he wanted to introduce it, and he was a Lubavitcher, it's not, it was, I'm just giving them an example that if there isn't an authority, so there's no authority, because the Mashpia has no authority today's day kamat. The Rov hat keine authority. The Rebbe is not with us to give us and tell us what to do exactly. So what authority do we have?
Are you saying that post Gimmel Tamuz, it's even more important to emphasize this?
The Iker after Gimmel Tamuz. I could understand how before Gimmel Tamuz that they didn't have that much respect. Well, automatisch, it's not Rebbe. It's not Rebbe. In the Rebbe, was it was vorstellen for Betzalel Mashima when it's not Rebbe. But post Gimmel Tamuz, the new generation was although late with the Rebbe.
How do we educate people to make such a paradigm shift if there's 200 years of Chabad history of not having this type of scenario?
Because the Rebbe the last few years pushed for that. I remember Sichels the Rebbe Geret as we da fragen Rabbonim, and the Rebbe gave a lot of how do you say, authority for Rabbonim. Mehr wie man gesehen bei the anderen Rabbein. And mehr wie man sieht, even by the Polish Chassidim, which the Rebbe should give authority for the Dayonim. The Rebbe pushed.
Is that possibly why the Rebbe didn't want to give Piskei Dinim? He wanted to give Rabbonim that authority to that space to grow and not have the Rebbe stepping on them, or so to speak, or not, giving them some.
Yeah, but the Rebbe Bechlal said for the Oilam. Benoist was the Rebbe line hat alles gefragt Rabbonim. Hat the Rebbe gesagt for the Oilam, when you have a question, is Rabbonim, and alles Rabbonim. The Rebbe put a lot of emphasis into asking Rabbonim. So automatically, just oi bist achos for Rebbe, for them allein darf man es tun.
Right.
But again, in my community, I feel there's no lack of respect.
Do you think, what would your advice be for a Rav in a Kehilla where the respect has diminished or was never existent? What would be the best way to build up the inyan of Rabbonos in that Kehilla? Let's say that doesn't have a lot of Chassidische balabatim, and you want to build this up. What would be your recommendation to create this concept?
I have a few Jungelite and Moireruas, which are I could say I guide them a lot, and I constantly tell them, in order to demand respect, you as a Moirerua, as a Rav, give yourself away 24/7 fully for your community. Give shirim, be over there for your community. Whatever they need, be there, whatever they need. Automatically, it will come back. Automatically, the respect will come. But your tafkid should be, geb sich immer for the community fully, all the way. Think what I can do for them. And be there in their Gashmis Diga lives, in their Shalom Bayis Diga lives, in their Ruchnis Diga lives. Have time for them. When they come to you, be fully, focused on their issues. When you are going to do that, you are automatically gain respect. You cannot demand respect. You cannot teach. You cannot change a culture. It's ain't gonna happen. The only way how you can gain respect is if they're gonna see that you are 100% there for them. Automatically, it will come back. You can't demand covet. You can't demand respect.
So, how do you stay fresh? And if the job of being a Rav is so hard, how do you not get burnt out? especially after this additional guidance that you're giving, that it's such a level of Zugegebenkeit, Ibrigegebenkeit. How does a Rav not get burnt out?
The only way, if you look at it as a shlichus, only if you look at it as die bist a shlich von dem Rebbe, this is for a shlichus. If you are recognized in America or not, that's irrelevant. The Matthias is, die bist du hast a shlichus on this world, this is your shlichus. I have people call me, Rabbi, I'm sorry, I called you so late, or I said, listen, that's my job, that's my tafkid on this world,
And for the Nefesh HaBahamis, how do you stay beyond the shlichus answer? How do you stay sane from a mental health perspective?
For the Nefesh HaBahamis, I don't know. I can't answer this question. The Matthias is, if you have sipuk on your job, but when you see you make a change, you have sipuk, that's good for the Nefesh HaBahamis too. You believe me, you could see a Rova community could see the changes that slowly but surely changes which you make in people's lives. Einlach sipuk gdoilu mezi, to see how you helped someone, you guided someone, you elevated someone, you made a change in his life. That's sipuk, which is good also for the Nefesh HaBahamis.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about your new title that I didn't mention in the I didn't purposely omit in my introduction, but you're now a member of a new Hashgocha. What did you learn coming in to be part of a Hashgocha that you obviously learned Yedidei Chelik Aleph, but in terms of the real world, what didn't you know about Hashgocha that you discovered once actually being in the field? The good, the bad, and the ugly.
First of all, the mila that I had before coming into this new Hashgocha is that, again, as I mentioned to you, I'm a curious person. So I was in a lot of Lubavitch Shechita before I thought I'm going to go into this field. I was in a lot of Shechitas, in chicken and meat, in Etzisrol, in the United States. Just for curiosity, since I knew this, the Halachas, I wanted to be hands-on, and years and years I used to travel and go into what's going on. So that's the good thing which helped me a lot. That means because most people, once you finish your Redaya and you're going on the field, it's no shayches, that's text, it's on the book, we have a shayla, but hands-on, nobody had. Ich habe ein bisschen gehad this. But even though, after all, I could say that once you are involved, but you have the achrais on it, you see things in totally different. You see every nuance, you see every nikida. Every nikida is a dion. It's from being involved by being curious till being involved, having the achrayas. It is a long way. And having a achrayas of kashis is a big achrayas. I must tell you, I take it very, very serious. And I keep on learning, I keep on asking, speaking with Mimcham, I keep on asking with Rabbonim. And it is a new world which opened. And I'm glad that I'm glad that basically I'm involved, because since it's, so to speak, I'm knowing it, so every tiny thing in that process is me and the guy. It's learning, the guy to know, into the guy to make a change. In Baruch Hashem, I spoke with a lot of other Shechitas from the Chassidische, where we could improve, where we should improve, where we did improve. It is mamash, I would say today's day, the Buta Shechita, which are Bechlal today's day, is much nicer than it was once. Moisef constantly noch do noch a frimmigkeit, noch a chimrim, noch a zach. And even now we had some issue which we wanted to change, but against the law didn't allow it. And Baruch Hashem, since we have a gewaldige good cooperation with the Satmar Shechita, which is also an agri, because 1 week is Chabad, 1 week is Satmar. So we had the koyach through Washington to change a specific thing in the Shechita because we wanted to change it.
What was that?
There's the longs. They had the law, so to speak, say that the long has to be on the same table as the other Ivorum. Some Ivorum, inner Ivorum, had to be in the same table, had to go together. So what happened? If you take out the long and the boidig prim are slowly checking it, the goyim, which they have this other part of the shechita, have it on the table and they want to get moving it, start knocking on the table. No, because they cannot move it further because they're still waiting for the long. And that's the law. It had to be like that. And there was a big problem because we wanted that basically the boit chitz and the boit panim should have their ruhigkeit and they should be able to do their job as much as they need it. And not the goyim should be on top of it. But the law is a law. So basically we had it changed that you shouldn't, just number it, and you don't need to. It shouldn't be on the same. But you have to go to Washington
in the Biden administration.
What?
The Biden administration.
Yeah, Biden administration. Yes.
Interesting.
And l'schise yoma, we have to give credit for Satmar, which they used also their influence on some senators and some lawmakers, and Baruch Hashem, we changed. So having communications with the other Buta Shechita and other Rechshayra.
This is a fact that all but the Shechita could gain from this. This is
all the Buta Shechita could gain from this. Yes.
Interesting. What's Lubavitcher Shechita, and do you only eat Lubavitcher Shechita?
Lubavitcher Shechita means the shoichtem, the boitkem, the people who have achrayas of the kashrus are basically Yidden, which learn Chassidus, zijn Chassidische Yidden. Chabad Chassidim, learn Chassidus Chabad. Das is Lubavitcher Shechita.
Who? I mean, I'm just curious. You said you're curious. So has your curiosity been able to satisfy your quench to understand the makar for this inyan, or is this a Spitz Chabad thing, or you think this is something that you highly recommend all your Talmidim to adhere to?
There isn't clearly, let's be truth, there isn't clearly things what it means Lubavitcher Shechita. There's no such. There isn't a place which you could pinpoint the finger what it means Lubavitcher Shechita. We know that the Friedige Rebbe ate from lamb, yeah. The lamb, what is it called? Through lamb had a Shechita in Williamsburg. I don't know exactly where it comes, the Lubavitcher Shechita. Pinpoint exactly what it means. But as well, ich weiß ich, as if there is such a thing. Lubavitcher Shechita means a Yid which is a Yerushalayim. This is what it means.
But you said it has to be Chassidus Chabad and this and that and the like. Okay. Is that anything? I'm saying, is it an Inyan?
Yes, because in order I want that the Shoiche the boy is on a Yerushalayim. In my eyes, as a Yid was lernt Chassidus on a daily basis, darf man trachten auf sein Yerushalayim. Aber ich sage nicht, dass man nicht Yerushalayim, aber ich habe wenn jeder lernt Chassidus jeden Tag, or at least 3 times a week, es ist sicher, dass es Moise was Sachen sei Yerushalayim.
So you personally mock, but you wouldn't eat meat from a heimische Hefsher?
No, I would not say that I'm makbet like that. No,
you're not makbet.
I'm not. Yeah, but I am very, very, very choosy who am I eating, and there's a lot of which I don't eat. But I wouldn't say that if it's not Lubavitch, I only not eat.
This podcast is sponsored by Kollel Rabbonim Chabad, community of experienced Rabbonim and aspiring Rabbonim. The last year and a half, we've been learning Hilchos Nida, Taras HaMishpacha. Prior to that, we studied the Halachas Tfilas Kehilla and Agalas Kehilla. those that would like to join Kehilla Rabbonim Chabad after the month of Tishrei would be a good time, fresh time to join. We are starting the halachas of mikvois, dinei chafifa. After Pesach, we're going to move into hilchas mikvois proper. So those that would like to join and get access to all the tools of Kehilla Rabbonim Chabad, as well the previous sugyas, the tefillas kelim and agalas kelim. We're going to be starting hilchas chafifa, then we're going to do a 2-month chazor of the whole hilchas nida, and then jumping into hilchas mikvois after Pesach. See a link in the show notes. Schedule an interview with the Rosh Kollel if you have further questions.
It's interesting. This story in Muncie. Those that kept Lubavitch Shechita, they had less issues with that Shechit in Rockland County. So like Lamashal, if I have a lot of Vishnitzer cousins and whatever, I go, Lakewood cousins. If I go to a place, oftentimes if I say I don't eat your Shechita, people are offended. Would you say that's a reason not to? And if you know it's a good hechsher, would that be reason enough to, should you say I only eat Lubavitcher Shechita, or does that make Lubavitchers look like they, they're better than everyone else? Or no, we should be proud that we're Lubavitchers, and this is
what's wrong to a person's makbah that you'd eat only Lubavitcher Shechita? The
It's
same
quite-
as
it's
a
quite-
person in New Square.
it's
will
quite
only eat
offensive.
something which New Square.
It's quite offensive. You only learn Chassidus from the Belzer Rov or Breslover Chassidus. You're not a Yerushalayim. It's quite a statement.
The Shechita, there was always a thing, makbah again of Shechita much more than regularly. The same as a square Chozer will be makbah on square Shechita, although they believe that other shachtam might also be Yerushalayim, and I believe also that other shachtam, which is Satmar or the square or the Belzer division, could be same Yerushalayim that other people. I wouldn't have a suffix in the Yerushalayim, but in Shechita it is always a thing. People had gedurim v'siyugam. What, where, and when. You don't eat everything. So the same as a Satmara. A lot of Satmar will only eat Shechita, which has the hechsher of Satmar. And a lot of Square will only eat from Square. And I know a lot of people in Popa will only eat from Popa Shechita. I know my parents, only meat which was from Popa Shechita came into their house. So what's wrong as a Lubavitcher feel that only Lubavitcher Shechita? That doesn't mean that all other Shechitas are Chaz v'Sholom mishkosher. But you want to make a geder for meat, what is my standard? And even the other things could be a high standard. Ich esse nicht alles. Nothing wrong with it. And you can explain it to your cousins. It's not that you're not in the Shemaim. We make gedorim what we eat and what we don't eat.
Right. What would you say is an area that you think Lubavitch can continue growing in? That would be the biggest area of growth that Lubavitch has to make from learning from other kehillas.
It's a little loaded question.
I'm giving you. I have more if you'd like more.
First thing is the Heilige Kehilla, to establish the Heilige Kehilla. Ashil Zazan Mesider vi Ashil. The Rebbe used to say. One said by I don't know if it was by Fabrengen or what the Rebbe said. You should go to Williamsburg to see how over there how the system works. Also sucht man auf Hamasa. The Rebbe said, "Man kann ausleihen für Williamsburg." The Heilige Kehilla,
a system.
The Kehilla, how a Kehilla is run. That's a very nice thing, which by us it's not that much. It's not. You don't have this. You go in other Chassidish Mekoimas, the Kehilla is very proper, everything clapped.
I heard in Kingston they don't speak during davening. Is that true?
Kingston it reminds me a lot of other Kehillas, because over here we have a Gaba which sets the tone, and we have a HalachaU, and Kingston is unique. I must tell you, Emma, Kingston in a way is unique. But Bechlal, avekstellen na Kehilla, that means rules and regulations. What is mukubal, what's not mukubal. Nicht Halacha. Poshet, do Sachen, was is how a mikveh should look, how a mikveh should be run, how a how every Kehilla, the in front of the Hungarians, sehr gut weggestellt, how the Kehillas should run. A Bas Medrash should run, a mikvah should run, a chayder, a school, everything very systematic. And this would be a nice thing if we could learn from them how to run a community. That's in Heilige Gashmi. Heilige Rochni, if you want to know how we could grow, is Kemiven, that Tzanias Hanoshim. That's a very important thing which we have to grow a lot. Which basically, as the Rebbe said in Toshin Lamat, that's one of the yisoides of a Yiddish shtib. We have to remember that we are basically Chassidim, and we are Chassidish Yidden, and we shouldn't get influenced by the gas. That's very important also, because although we are doing kiruv, outreach, and we makarav anybody and everybody, which that's exactly what Toides of Hashem wants, what we should be, we should know that we have to make sure that the gas should not influence us. And a lot of things crept in from the gas into our culture and our community. And this is a thing which we have to be on top of it. We have to remember, especially the Lubavitch communities, that a Lubavitch Shechita is not a Chabad house. In Chabad house, you have to, a lot of times, have to compromise on things. Halocha, there's no such a thing. The Rebbe used to say, Torah, another Torah to them. But then, you could compromise on gewisse nekidas. In a Chassidish community, we have to make sure that we don't compromise. We are a Chassidish community. We don't compromise in tznias. We don't compromise in kashrus. Even in kashrus, we geworden a gewisse rifyon. I would say by us, a lot of our people will take everything which has a kash hechsher from the national hechsher, which again is kosher, but we are Chassidish Yidden. And do they go necessarily according to the Alter Rebbe? Do they kasher according to the Alter Rebbe or according to Chabad minik? So again, we have to remember that we are a Chabad community, which Chabad is lefnimish yisadin, Chassidus lefnimish yisadin. And we are not standard, Pashita, American boys. And that's an important thing which we have to grow a lot. Again, not let the street come in and influence how we dress, how we speak, what we eat, how we go about in shul. All these things we have to remember in the Menachsidische community. In the Menachsidische community, in a way, Chabad in the Haim and Russia were even more frummer than the Polish Chassidim, as you know. Because Bechal, the Russian mentality was a more frummer mentality than the Polish and Galiciana. And in America, we got loose a little bit, especially in the last 30 years. And this we have to be mechazik more and more, that we are frum in Essen, Achille, when they are frum in alle Unionen. And this is a thing which we have to put emphasis. Now, people will say it's only Chetzoinius. It's not only Chetzoinius. First of all, the Chetzoinius means a lot on the Pneumius. And it's not only Chetzoinius, it's the whole culture. The whole culture, the language, the what we do. For instance, I'll give you a motion. By us, a smartphone is nothing bad. Okay? Which again, I can understand it. Why? Because the Rebbe was Bechlal, we should use our technology for Kedusha. But the problem is, first of all, today's day, technology is very dangerous. So first of all, do we put emphasis that everybody who has a smartphone should have a filter on it. We have to put more emphasis on it. Because after all, if a person has a smartphone which is not filtered, mikre rusha. Ikke darke achrena, mikre rusha. That's number one. Number two, I could see constantly people who they are babysitting their child, and they can't get a lot to the children. So the one that should be quiet, you give them a phone and start playing with it. So what do? Automatically, you introduce them to a thing which they get addicted, they get connected to it. The same is with kosher videos, Kosher videos, once you start with that, they get addicted to kosher videos. And all these things is goyish sachen which crept into us. Now, we need to use technology for Kiruv, we use technology for Torah, for Kedusha. But we have to remember that Sof Kol Sof, in the Chassidische Yidden, in anybody who doesn't need to have a smartphone should not have a smartphone, and anybody who does need to have a smartphone has to have a filter on it. It's not only a smartphone, computers at home. We let the children have access to computers. You know how many people lost their children over there? We are afraid to say for our children, when they're small, everything has to be positive. There's a concept, that by Chabad, the Rebbe was only positive. You learn Torah's Menachem. Look how the Rebbe Hataranga gave him Babas Bam around when he felt that you have to give it. So automatic, these things, there's concepts which crept into by us, which is not true. And it schleps down the communities. And this is, we have to put down our feet. Again, and over here we come back to a Rav of Kehilla. So a Rav of Kehilla is the only one which could make some kind of change. And the Rebbe is not here, the Shumas Begif, to tell us how to deal with smartphones, for instance, with computers, or with other things. So a Rav has to have that authority to say such a thing. Now, if he doesn't have authority, there's no kuvut for him, there's no respect for him, he cannot say it. So automatically, it's like the B'mai Shvoita Shoiftim. So therefore, it's very important to build up the community, the Kehilla, which a Kehilla means how the shul works, how everything works. It should be dayonim, and every place there should be dayonim. Every place should have a rov, because again, how could you be a Chassidish community if you don't have a rov on premises? And I must tell you, I think which is, I was really pleasantly surprised. I had a couple of not Yingalite, ages which have children Yingalite, which told me when they came over here for Kingston, they said, my child wanted to come to Kingston, and I said, who's the Rov over there? And he said, there isn't a Rov. Then I told them, don't go. And once they have a Rov, I said, you could go. Because it's interesting. 50-year-old people that age told me, a couple of people told me, I didn't let my children to come if there isn't a Rov on premises. And it's as wichtig. There are communities today, which our communities, Chabad communities, which doesn't have a Rov. Now, it's easy to have access when you have a Shaila. But first of all, Shabbos Yontov. And second of all, it's not only for a Shaila. Shaila you could call today's day, you're right. A community which has a Rov, or Tashpua, you work together with the community, and you can make a change. And that's why it's so beautiful, Kingston, over here, because by Emmas, you could see it's a nice community, Ingelat, Melerend, in Medavan, and they listen to a Rov, and the Rov listens to them. I mean to say, it's a Rov in a community is a very important thing. And we got to make sure that all the communities, today's day, Chabad should have a Rov on premises.
Okay, well, it's a tall order for a Rav to be on the caliber of Rebbe Oberlander. Yashikayach for your time. And I only asked you about 20% of the shilas that I had prepared, but so we'll have to have a part 2 and 3 and 4. Bezos Hashem Yisborach. Eibusha should give you kayach to continue to influence the Kehilla in Kingston and then the ganze Kehilla from Lubavitch and weiter. So Yashikayach.
Amen, amen. Kol Tov.
Kol Tov. Thank you.
Zamatzlich. In der Eibusha soll die geben, sie hat die Schmeier von dir und von der Kollel, side the Halacha Kollel, side the Chassidus Kollel, you should make a change, which you do already. I can tell it, I can know it, and I know it. You make a big change, bestelt of naaying a lot, moire ruas. And again, I have shaykhs with some of them on a personal level. And so, be'emes starking a lot. There is a bright future for the next generation of Rabbonim Chabad and moire ruas in Chabad, which they will make a big change in the future.
Baruch Hashem. Yasher Koyach, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Amen.
Kol Tov.
If you've reached this part of the video, you probably enjoyed it. Please consider donating a video or many videos to help us continue doing these amazing interviews. Or you may do it in honor of someone, in memory of someone. It's all good. Hope you enjoyed and see you in the next video. Hey there, do you know anyone that needs coaching? Or do you know someone that needs coaching? Well, you're in luck because I'm starting to coach now. And first session is free. Yes, you heard right, free. You can get a taste of my style by my first few videos. It's pretty good. You can reach out to me at levisocialhome.com, which is also found in the description.